Hey guys, it's me, Mythic Tyrant. I'm going to give this just a couple of minutes to give people just some time to join, and then we're going to go ahead and get this thing started. I'm excited. I love doing these live weekly Q&As. I do want to give you just a little bit of a heads up. So last week I told you my allergies are bothering me. Well, apparently they still are. So I do apologize for that. There's not a lot I can do about it. Unfortunately, this happens to me like twice a year whenever the temperature and weather starts changing. So basically spring and fall, and it goes on for about 2 weeks at a time. So I'm going to try not to gross you out too much tonight. Hopefully things will work out okay. So give me just a second. I want to give people a little bit of time to get in here. I'm checking the comment section, which by the way does work today, thankfully, the live feed. So we'll go from there, but we'll start up in about maybe 2 minutes or so. So just hang tight and I'll be right back. Alright, so we got about 20 people in there now, so I'm pretty sure we're set to go. People can join and leave anytime they want to. Hopefully join, damn it. So we're going to start out. So what's up, guys and gals? It's Mythic Tyrant here. Welcome to my weekly Q&A session where you guys ask the questions and I give you the answers. As I just said a couple of minutes ago, I do apologize. I have the sniffles again. Twice a year. I get this every time the weather starts changing. It lasts for about 2 weeks. If it keeps up, I might have to go for the old format starting next week. But you guys just let me know which one you like better, the live Q&As or the other ones. I'm happy to do either one. Maybe I can do this as a separate show at some point. But anyway, so that's what we're going to do. Now, for those of you who don't know how this works, essentially I spend the first part of the video reading out questions that you guys have submitted to me the week before. So for those of you who don't know how this is done, it's quite simple. All you have to do if you want your question submitted and showcased for the world to see, you can ask it in the comment section below, which obviously you can't right now because this is a live video and we just have a live feed at the moment. But this video will be archived and the comment section will be born from it. So of course you can ask it right there. But if you have a question in your head right now and you think you're going to forget it a little bit later, all you got to do is hit me up on Twitter at MythicTyrant. A link to this can be found in the description below. And yes, it's Mythic Tyrant, not Mystic Tyrant or Mythic Tirade. So yes, Mythic Tyrant in the description below. Love to hear from you. Get involved not only with my conversations, but the conversations I have with, you know, Late Night Halo, or I should say Late Night Gaming, Axeman, Hidden Xperia, Bungie, and of course 343 Industries. So definitely check that out. Usually then after that I spend the second part of the video, and I'm sorry, I always get nervous when I'm live. Second part of the video talking about something that's very important to me, or an issue, or something that's going on. I try to keep politics and stuff out of it because I know you don't want to hear about that bullshit. But tonight's topic is actually a continuation of last week's, and it has to do with a link in the description below. So definitely, if you haven't checked out the description, definitely do that because I need you to, and it does tie into this video later. And I saved that for after the Q&A session, just so that you know you can, if you just like the Q&A part, you don't want to hear about my other bullshit, then you don't have to worry about it. But those who do stick around for it, I have a treat for you because after I wrap up my little monologue session, I take live questions from the chat feed that I can see this week, so that's perfect. Again, I do apologize. I'm doing this in my apartment, so it's Saturday night, so if you hear drunken neighbors or you hear EMS vehicles outside, or if my cats decide to photobomb the video again like they've done, I look forward to that. And I hope you are too. I've never played the Banished before. I don't know if you can in multiplayer. I've never tried Halo Wars 2 multiplayer with the exception of Blitz. And even then, it was just the Blitz beta. So I don't know other than that, but I'm looking forward to it. I'm definitely going to do a walkthrough for it. I still haven't gotten around to Spearbreaker yet. I started doing one, and I got about an hour into one of the missions, and the game froze up on me, which actually is a throwback to one of my biggest criticisms of the game back when I was doing my review for it earlier this year. So I expect that it's going to be really cool. It looks like we've got giant flood juggernauts to deal with, which we've never seen before in Halo. We saw juggernauts that were cut from Halo 2, hence your name, cut from Halo 2. So I'm really looking forward to this. I think that it has a lot of potential. The graphics look great. It does that, sorry, the camera. So definitely get it. If you're planning on it, follow through with it. If you're not planning on it, think about it a little harder, because I'm really looking forward to this. We haven't seen the Flood in a Halo game since Halo 3, so that's a comeback that has been a long time coming. So that's a great question, H2 Halo, and thank you. Our next question comes from Austin K, and Austin asks, what is your favorite cinematic cutscene experience out of all the Halo games? This is going to sound a little weird. The one that stuck with me the most was the opening cutscene for the mission Keys in Halo Combat Evolved. That's the first time you see like full-scale war between two AI factions, the Covenant and the Flood. And the way Cortana describes it, how the Covenant are afraid, how they're panicking, they're sitting in their strike team. You know, that's the first time that you've seen this alien force that's supposedly superior to you and your species is now afraid themselves. And so even though it was a shortcut scene, it was a very effective one. You know, there are several others that I love. Obviously, the Gravemind cutscene in Halo 2 was an excellent one. I think that Halo 4 had a lot of excellent cutscenes, a lot of excellent dialogue. You know, the Didact cometh, I should say, and of course what happened with Cortana at the end. So all those were great, but the one that really stuck in my mind, and I've actually duplicated in a video that I did way back when I was in high school, we're talking like 16 years ago, something like that, of that. So that's my favorite cutscene. But what's yours, Austin? Let me know in the comments below, my friend. Our next question comes from Brian Webb. And Brian asks, what are your thoughts on the needle rifle? I thought it added some uniqueness while still being useful. Would you like to see it again? I didn't really think it was that unique or special, to be honest with you. It seemed like a combination of the needler and the carbine, which seemed kind of lazy. Like when I think of unique, I think of the Halo Combat Evolved weapons, because those were types of things I'd never really seen before, or at least in terms of the alien weaponry. But that just seemed like, well, we're out of ideas, so what do? You want to just make it look like the carbine and the needler had sex and have that? That's what it honestly felt like. It's a cool gun, don't get me wrong. Or almost a reimagining of my previous series called the Tyrant documentaries. No, it's not the same series that you see on this channel. It was actually 2 movies that I did. One was called the Tyrant documentaries and one was called the Tyrant Apocalypse. I played this guy called the Tyrant. Go figure, right? But he wore like a black trench coat and an eye patch, and when we did Shrine, we wanted to sort of update the image. We wanted him to be evil, but not over-the-top comic book evil. So we went with the white suit. It was suggested by one of my actors, and it stuck. And so I started using that for my videos here. Since the first trailer for Shrine actually appeared on this channel, I started using it as a main theme, and it sort of stuck. I like the way it looks on me. It makes my pasty self look a little bit tanner. So I like it, and personally, I just enjoy the style of it. I think it fits me perfectly, and it fits my tone. So that's a great question. I hope that answers it for you. I hope that answers it for a lot of people who've wondered that over the years. So that's a great question, Veers Button. Thank you. Our next question comes from Fort Kick-Ass. Oh boy, I'm not sure if I want to attend that fort. But Fort Kick-Ass asks, my question for you is, how could Bungie have designed Halo 2 with the good additions to play and feel more like Halo Combat Evolved, or at least feel like a true successor without changing the story arc? I think probably the first one was not seeing the Covenant perspective of the war. I've mentioned this in a couple of videos where I think there's 2 schools of thought for people who like science fiction. There's the people who like space operas like Star Wars and Star Trek, and then there's people who like movies like Independence Day and War of the Worlds, where aliens are things that you can't understand. They're more of a force of nature, a lethal force of nature that's just out to get you. It's unstoppable, and I'm in the latter category. I like those end of the world movies like Independence Day and War of the Worlds. And so that's how Halo Combat Evolved felt, and then Halo 2 onwards sort of dialed it back and made it more of a space opera. If they continued the genuine flow of Combat Evolved and what Halo, the Fall of Reach, not Halo Reach, brought to the table, it would have felt more like a sci-fi universe, something more believable. And I think that would have helped. I think that the whole game should have taken place on Earth, with maybe the exception of going to High Charity towards the end of the game, so you get to see the inside of this big alien city. And I think it should have ended like Halo 3 ODST ended, where you didn't necessarily end the war, but you had a possible solution to end the war. I mean, I could see, instead of maybe them capturing an engineer, possibly capturing one of the prophets and negotiating sort of a forced peace, that's something that I could see happening. I can't see any other way of humanity defeating the Covenant, especially after losing Reach. So that's just my personal take on it. So I have to keep tapping the screen so that the auto thing doesn't keep popping up. But that's my particular take on it. And what do you think would have made it better? Or would you have rather seen it that way? Let me know in the comments below. Our next question comes from Mark Cicolella. And Mark asks, if they didn't kill Chief or compose him, would it be okay for Chief to train the next generation of Spartans after Halo 6? That just seems to be a bit played out. That seems to be something that a lot of people are starting to want to do now, and it's a little too cliche. I don't see Chief doing that. I think when people don't seem to understand why I think Chief should be killed off in Halo 6, well, that's a little brutal the way I'm saying it. I think he should sacrifice himself, have a hero's death to maybe save not just the galaxy, but maybe even Cortana. We saw Cortana go in Halo 4. I think this would bring it full circle, and maybe not die, but maybe be composed so that he's still technically there, just not how we know him. I can't see him retiring. He's been training to be a soldier since he was 6 years old. He doesn't know anything else. If you read the book The Fall of Reach, you hear about when he's on the ship, he feels very uncomfortable. He doesn't feel in control. He wants to be on the battlefield where he does feel in control. So I can't see him ever being happy that way. I think the most justified version to end the Chief story would be that. Some people say so much, but anyway, C-Funk asks, what if Halo 6 gets delayed even further or even gets canceled, and instead we get a Halo Harvest game? Would that satisfy both sides? No, it would not. So here's what happens. Halo 6 has to be made one way or the other. They don't have to call it Halo 6. They can call it something else, but they've now, for the last 2 games, ended it on a to-be-continued note. That leaves a sour taste in people's mouths. You can't do that, but so much. I think they've overused that at this point. They certainly shouldn't have done it after Halo 2 and the backlash that Bungie received from that. We need a conclusion to the story. If they don't do that, there we go. If they don't do that, 343 is going to be in a lot of trouble. And I think part of the reason why we're seeing a delay with Halo 6 is because they want to make it the perfect Halo game, or the best Halo game that it possibly can be. They need to finish out the series, and that's what Halo 6 and Halo 5 Guardians and Halo Wars 2 have been building towards, is this new conflict. And we have to be able to see it through. If they stop it, and the Halo story arc, or the Reclaimer story arc, stops there with no answers, I think people are going to be even more sore, and they're just not going to return to the Halo franchise. This would not be good for 343 Industries, because their sole product is Halo. That's it. They're not like other companies where they can produce several different franchises. They only have one. And if they ruin it, they ruin themselves too. And I do not want to see that happen. I'm honestly really looking forward to the next major chapter in the Halo saga. I hope it hits it out of the park. I've got faith in them. I think part of the reason they've delayed it as long as they have, and it looks like they're continuing to delay it, is because they don't want to be bound by a time constraint, by a deadline that they can't realistically. All the focus right now should be on that game right there, and that's my take on it. Well, what do you think, C-Funk? Would you rather play Halo 6 or Halo Harvest? Let me know in the comments below. So, hold on one second. Make sure this stays on for a bit. So last week I talked about something very important. So I've been in YouTube now, something you don't know, or maybe you do. I've been making Halo guides for almost 10 years now. 10 years. And about 3 years after I started doing it on halo.bungie.org with Claude Herrera. And once Halo Reach came out in 2010, I finally had the guts to start my own YouTube channel. As a matter of fact, next month on October 10th will be this channel's 7th birthday. So 7's Bungie's number, 7th birthday. I've been doing this channel, just this channel alone, for 7 years. And it's interesting too, it started out as a hobby, right? I basically had the perfect setup to have this work out. Back then I was young, I was full of energy, I was single, and I had the perfect job for this. Essentially, I worked at a data center. It was a job that I loved very much. I worked 4 shifts a week. Each shift was about 10 to 12 hours long. 3 of the shifts were night shift, 1 was a day shift. I had about an 8-hour turnaround time between those 2 shifts. So I worked 3.5 days a week between 40 to 50 hours. And it was crazy. It was crazy busy, it was crazy stressful, even though I enjoyed it. But the major benefit to that is I had 3.5 days a week that I could commit to my channel. And that was more than enough time. Most people get 2-day weekends, I got 3.5-day weekends every single week. And so that's how it started. And it was just a hobby, and then things changed over time. Eventually I ended up switching jobs. I ended up meeting my now wife. And you guys probably remember a dark period on this site. Not a bad period, just a period where I went dark for a while at the end of 2014, going through the first half of 2015. And the reason for that is because for the first time I had what I would call a normal job, at least in terms of a schedule. I was working normal 8 to 5 hours Monday through Friday, coming home to my then fiance and now wife, and I just didn't have time to do the YouTube stuff. Those were the major 3 things going on, but the most important things to me was family, making sure I could have a sustainable income to support that family, and finally YouTube, with YouTube taking the bottom rung on that ladder. So I didn't focus too much on it, and then after I was involved in my accident in 2015 and could no longer do my full-time job anymore, I had 2 options on the table. One was to start over, to learn a new skill and try to get a new job. And then there was the second option, and I thought to myself, well, wait a minute, I'm already good at something else. I'm good at making YouTube videos. I'm good at creating content that people love. At that point, I had about 20,000 subscribers, and I was like, I can really make something of this if I commit to it full time. And so it took a while to fully really get into that, because one of the injuries in my accident, along with making me crippled and legally blind in my right eye, was I broke the thumb on my good hand. So I could, I was like, oh God. And so I couldn't really play video games, not with a controller, for at least a couple of months. So I had to only do PC games and reviews. That's how I came up with my Halo Time Travel and Evolution video. And so after I got out of the wheelchair, well, at least the first time I got out of the wheelchair, I ended up going back in later. It's for processing power and storage. Those servers need power to run, and that power needs redundancy, and of course to get it to you, you need a lot of bandwidth to do that. You know, from working in a data center, I can tell you that is not a cheap feat. That's expensive, and so they pay for it through ads, and they encourage people like us to do more videos by paying us part of that revenue so that they can in turn generate more. And things were working out fairly well in that department. You know, I took a small hit in 2015 when Halo 5 came out, and it wasn't, I think we can all agree that it really wasn't received that well. And so since Halo is like the baseline for my channel, that kind of hurt it, but I was able to bounce back from that. And so I rearranged a lot of stuff on my site. Later on in 2016, I started setting a set schedule for myself so that people knew what to expect from my channel. I tried making my content more mainstream, so it wasn't just random videos here and there. You had an idea of what to expect. And by this year, I started posting videos every day and making sure that, at least for the most part, those videos were consistent on a daily basis. Like Saturdays are dedicated to Q&A sessions. Sundays are live streams. Mondays are my Project Monday videos where I do stuff like everything wrong with Halo, or I make predictions about Halo 6 or whatever. You know, Wednesdays I typically do reviews or Women of Xbox videos, and then Fridays I do some sort of gamer, you know, some sort of walkthrough, some sort of strategy guide, and then Tuesdays and Thursdays more streaming. That's how my setup is here. I work every single day. For those who say YouTube is not a job, is not a full-time job, fuck you. Yes, it is. I have been working for about 16 years. I've had several different jobs. YouTube is the most stressful job I have ever had. I love it. I feel extremely fortunate that I can do this, but it is stressful. It is not a set job where you can clock in at 8 o'clock and leave at 5. It's a 24/7 job. It's constantly on your mind. You're constantly trying to think of new content because you have to make your audience happy. And that's how you get people coming back. That's how you get new people coming in. And that's important. And the income is extremely unpredictable, especially when you're talking about ads. there are at least two times a year, where we experience a drop in viewership and CPM. CPM is how we get paid. We have the September slump where everyone goes back to school, so no one's watching YouTube videos anymore. I've noticed this a lot over the last couple of weeks. It has been happening all across YouTube. It's not just me. So we experience a drop in that. And then we experienced the January drop where, you know, we got paid higher CPMs during the holidays because companies were trying to push their products out there, so ad revenue went up. But then in January, all that's over, so it goes back down again. And it's a crazy cycle. And so things were going well until earlier this year, where we experienced something called Adpocalypse. It wasn't something I understood very well at the time. I understand it better now, but the irony of it was it happened on April 1st. I woke up on April 1st, April Fool's Day, saw that none of my videos, and I have almost 700 of them now, I had about 600 of them then. Scared me for a second there. Were no longer monetized. And at first I thought it was April Fool's joke. Seriously. I mean, YouTube is known for doing stuff like that. I remember it was in 2014, their big joke was they were taking YouTube down, that it was basically a decade-long study. And they were going to like award prizes and stuff, and everyone was like, wait, so all my content's going to be deleted? They have a good sense of humor, right? But that's what I thought it was until I did a little research and found out no, Maker Studio, the network that I belong to, had massive layoffs. They cut about 90% of their YouTube channels. And I didn't understand why at the time. And for those of you who don't know how networks work, it's basically like a firewall between you and Google, so that if people try to attack your channel or anything like that, file copyright strikes or whatever, whether it's users or developers, they sort of handle the litigation part of it. So they're necessary, in my opinion. Not everyone uses them. I have a network right now that only takes a very small percentage of my cut. So moving past that, what Adpocalypse did, and I didn't really realize it at first, is it cut my income by 70%. That's 70. And that's crazy. That is absolutely insane. And so I've worked my ass off ever since then. I mean, I've already been doing it, but worked even harder to try to restructure my channel, try to figure out better content to draw more people in. And I noticed I was getting more views every month, getting to a point where it was almost 500,000 views in 1 month, but my income wasn't really going up that much. And I realized that it's not that I couldn't eventually get there, it's how much time it's going to take. And that's sort of a problem. And so last week, I talked about starting a Kickstarter where, you know, people could donate money, and that would basically keep me above water. And if I donated a certain amount, maybe I would stop using ads on my site. You know, the thing of it is, as soon as that video went up, I had a lot of my subscribers reach out to me, and they said, no, we understand what you're trying to do, but the better way to do it is to go through Patreon, because it's a bit more consistent. Kickstarter, your campaigns go down after about a month or two, so instead of having to put new ones up every month and having to give new links and all that stuff, just set up a Patreon account. Other YouTubers have done it. You can set different amounts for people to donate on a monthly basis and give them rewards based off of what they do. It is a fantastic idea. I set one up this week, and it's so important that I make this work. There is a link to this site in the description below, and I'm going to tell you why. The problem with not being able to keep up with the Adpocalypse thing, not being able to overcome it fast enough, is YouTube is my job. Okay? And it's one that I want to keep, not just because I enjoy doing it, but because I built a community off of it. I consider you guys to be extended family. One of the most rewarding things I get out of doing this is being able to talk to you. I meet a lot of really cool people just from doing this. And it's a good feeling to have that. But the reality of it is, I'm in my 30s. And I have to take my work seriously. I have a family that I have to provide for. And like with any other job, if you're not making the money, if it's not getting you where you need to be, you find something else. And that's not a route I want to go. And I'm not down to a point now where I can wait years. It's months that I have left. It's months that I have left to make this work, or I have to find something else. Some of you are probably wondering, what does that mean? Does that mean you're going to delete your channel? And the answer is no. That would be stupid and ridiculous and pointless at the same time. There's no reason for me to delete my channel, but I wouldn't be able to produce more content. Because I've tried this before. As I just said a few minutes ago, I can't juggle a marriage, a full-time job, and a career on YouTube at the same time. It's not possible. I've tried it. It doesn't work. I have to look at what's important. What I would like to do is be able to combine two of those things, my career and my community here, and make it work so that I continue to build a strong community, so I can continue to maintain a strong community while not sacrificing stuff that is also really important to me. We're almost coming up on the 2-year mark where Nikki Deal left YouTube. And I know some of you don't know who he is, but a lot of you, especially longtime members of the Halo community, know exactly who he is. And it was shortly after Halo 5 that he stopped posting content, and it wasn't until a couple of months later we finally got his series finale video, if you will, explaining why. Now, I can tell you that I know this man very well. He is an excellent person. He is brilliant. And he's like a brother to me. And I've actually talked to him several times since he stopped posting on YouTube over the phone just to see what was going on. You guys saw the video. You know, he stopped posting primarily because Microsoft, not 343, Microsoft, the parent company, took away his gamer tag saying it was too profane or something like that. And that destroyed his brand because for years he'd been working his ass off building that brand up. He'd spent tons of man hours, you know, creating videos, working with other YouTubers. Microsoft even funded trips to send him out to different places. They gave him early copies of the Halo games. Eli thought Microsoft had his back, and they didn't. And so he saw that as a wake-up call, that it was a world that was too unreliable for him, and that he needed to do something that was more along the lines of something that could guarantee him a future. And that's what I'm trying to do here. I tried to intentionally make it so that people wouldn't have to donate a lot to make it work. It's based off of a monthly thing. The lowest, the bare minimum is $1. And I figured to reach my goal, that should work. $1 is something you find on the sidewalk. If you add that up annually, it costs less to fund the channel than it does to buy a movie ticket. It costs less annually to fund the channel than it does for 1 month of World of Warcraft. And so that's how I started it. I put different levels up. So it starts out at $1. It goes up from there. Each level offers different rewards because I don't expect you to give for nothing. I want to make sure that you feel like it's worthwhile, not just to keep my channel up, but it gives you something a little extra in return. It makes you a premium member of this site. And literally, I have almost 35,000 people subscribed to this channel. It would take less than 5% of those people, less than that, I think it's around 3%, to donate the bare minimum to keep this channel going. I have to take this seriously. Me stopping the channel, it wouldn't be out of spite, it's out of necessity. I have things I have to take care of. I can't rely on AdSense to take care of it for me. And even if I somehow manage to beat this Adpocalypse thing and get my AdSense revenue back up to where it was, who's to say that something else isn't going to come along and screw everything up? You know, I've dealt with blowbacks all over the place since the beginning. The first one was Microsoft and Bungie getting their divorce. That big schism right there completely took my site back years. I might be at Ready Up Live's level right now if it hadn't been for that. I was on Bungie.net, the Bungie.net front page, usually 2 to 3 times a week. And they were giving me free advertising, and it helped a lot. 343 tried to do that with their site as well, but not many people were following them yet because, you know, I always say with 343, I think for a lot of people they have what I call the step-parent syndrome. And basically what that means is someone new comes along and you automatically hate them, even if they're good people, when really what you need to do is step back and give them a chance. And that's what I've chosen to do with 343, but a lot of people have not done that. So that was a big issue there. time went on, and all of a sudden gaming companies got a little bit more conservative about who to allow to advertise or what could be advertised on YouTube. Fortunately, they've eased up over the years, but it was harsh back then. Then Halo 5 came out years down the road. That set me back a little bit. Now this Adpocalypse thing, I feel like every time I take a step forward, I take 2 steps back. And I've got to fix that. This Patreon thing is the way for me to do it. It is the solution. It's the best way to be able to control what comes in. And I'm highly encouraging you to do that. I set this up on Tuesday. I was so upset to see that days had gone by and only a couple of people really signed up for it. 3 very, very generous people. And so I want to thank them for it, but I was kind of hoping to see a little bit more come from that. You know, just people who, you know, they say they really like the channel, and I don't understand, I don't expect everyone to be able to do that. The reason I didn't go for a paid subscription primarily was because A, it would purge all my subscribers, and B, I know not everyone can afford it. If you're under the age of 18, it's not even an option for you. This isn't your fight. But there are people out there who do have full-time jobs, who do love coming here, love being a part of this community, who can spare it, and I'm asking you, you know, help me keep this channel alive. Help me keep this community alive. And it starts as just as little as $1 a month, and you would be giving something back to this community. I hope it's something you'll consider. I hope that you'll help me save this site, because, like I said, you're like an extended family to me, and I don't want to lose you. So hopefully I can make this work, and hopefully we have a future together. So that's my rant on that. Sorry that was probably a little bit of a downer. Now I'm ready to take questions from our live studio audience. So let's take a look at this real quick. Our first question. I have to give it a second for it to catch up because there's a little bit of a delay between me speaking and the stream. But yeah, go ahead and ask your questions in the stream below, and we'll go ahead and get started. Code Xanthian says 343 does deserve a chance. I agree with him 100%. And Chris, my first Patreon, does also mention, if for whatever reason you cannot join the patron site, you know, if you can't help out for whatever reason, spread it on social media, spread it on Facebook, spread it on Twitter. So thank you, Chris. I appreciate that. That definitely helps. Callson Umbrella asks, did I see his Twitter question? Is that the one regarding Red Team and Jerome? Or Jerome replacing the Chief? If that's the case, so he asked what would I think of Jerome replacing the Master Chief in future Halo games? If they do continue the timeline beyond Halo 6, honestly, I think Jerome would be the best option. He seemed like a pretty kick-ass Spartan in Halo Wars 2. Great sense of humor, very strong, very powerful, someone that I can definitely get behind for a Halo game. So absolutely, if someone were to replace the Chief, Spartan-wise, I would absolutely say Jerome from Red Team would be a great choice. So that's a good question to call sign. Mark asked if I could actually upload my Tyrant documentaries movies as a bonus for people who become patrons, possibly. I honestly would like to clean them up a little bit first. They're old. I filmed them all on old VHS tapes, so they don't look that great. They look better in 2003. I will try. I will see what I can do. How about that? I will see what I can do. I've got 2 of them. One, again, is called the Tyrant documentaries. The second is called the Tyrant Apocalypse. I look like a complete idiot in these movies. And I actually have a 3rd movie that you don't know about that I filmed before that called Under Fire, where I played an alien. This sounds ridiculous just saying it. And this is apparently a time when dinosaurs come back to life and like in modern day history. And then there's like some technical difficulties with the stream. I'm not sure if anyone can still hear me. If you can, let me know. I'm viewing it right here, but I'm not seeing anything. Okay, I think we're back on. Looks like it anyway. Yeah, I know, Mark. There's some lag. Unfortunately, I'm on cable internet instead of Fios, so it's a shared network. So hopefully, it's going to start cleaning itself up again. Okay, so you can start asking your questions again now. I think Luke Skywalker had one just a second ago, but I'm not really sure. I was trying to get the thing back up and running. Codes Anthium asked if Halo should add like a bot type system so that you could play with additional bots in addition to players, kind of like Titanfall 2. Absolutely, I think that would be a fantastic idea. That's one of the reasons I like Warzone so much. Even beyond Warzone Firefight, even standard Warzone has bots in there for both teams. Once you capture a certain structure, you see your own teammates come in, but I'd like to see them actually go out into the battlefield. I think they're taking steps in the right direction, and I would love to see that implemented into future games. They didn't in the original Halo just because it was too strenuous on the maps themselves. I actually added bots to Blood Gulch using Halo Custom Edition a long time ago. Made it night, everything, made all the weapons energy type weapons. It was really cool. It was a lot of fun. So yeah, I think it could be done easily, and it should be done. At the very least as a separate game mode. So that's a great question, Codes Anthium. All right, let's see what else we got here. Topster asked, do you think they're going somewhere with the lore? I don't know if they know that, to be honest with you. Hopefully they are. Halo 5 and Halo Wars 2 ended, again, in cliffhangers. I'm not really sure if that was the best move on their part. Maybe the reason for that is because they don't know yet what happens after this. And maybe that's partially why it's taking them so long, in addition to just making it a better game. They're trying to make sure they have a solid story so that it doesn't end up like Halo 5. That's just my personal opinion, Topster, but that's a great question. Code Red asks, do I think Locke would be a good protagonist in his own game? Maybe. You know, I think it'd be cool to actually get to know Locke a little bit better. I mean, that was kind of the thing that people didn't like in this game. Of course, it was centered mostly around Locke instead of the Chief, but at the same time, we didn't know anything about Locke. I mean, even if you saw the movie Nightfall, it doesn't really tell you anything. Even, you know, all I can say is the man who plays Luke Cage did himself a favor by not voicing the actor in Halo 5, or voicing the character in Halo 5 Guardians, instead of doing his own series on Netflix. Hopefully, in the future, they won't have to worry about that. But I'd like to see sort of a backstory on Locke. You know, how he got into the picture to begin with. You know, apparently he had a history for hunting the Arbiter. That would be a really cool game to see. Obviously, he wouldn't succeed, but I think it'd be cool to see that background, just so that when we play Halo 5, we know a little bit about the character that we're playing. That's just my personal opinion, but that's a great question. All right, let's see what else we got. All right, so Jay Gon asked, what do I think about the Warden Eternals line in Halo 5? She knows who you are before you were 1-1. Okay guys, I'm going to give this a chance to catch back up, and then I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up if you can still hear me. I don't know if you can or not. Okay, it looks like the video's back online. Sorry, I don't know why it's lagging again. I think it's just because cable internet, you know, it's a shared copper line. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up for this week, just so that you guys don't have to deal with it anymore. Thank you for hanging in there with me. I really enjoyed it. Again, if you can, please, I'm going to reiterate this again. Check out that link in the description. Go to the Patreon site. Look at the different levels. You know, if you can at least donate $1, that helps a ton. You know, if a couple of thousand people watch this video and half of them donate $1 to it, I've reached my goal. That's all it takes. It's a very small, modest goal. So that's the bare minimum I need to be able to keep this going. So hopefully that works out. The level 1, just $1 a month gets you into the private community Discord. Level 2, you get a shout out from me on one of my videos. So I will name you personally and just say, hey, thank you, so the world knows how cool you are. Level 3, you start with, you get invited to community game nights and stuff like that, and it goes up from there. So help if you can. I appreciate the support. I appreciate you guys. Thank you for being there for me. Thank you for being a part of my extended family, because that's exactly what I consider you to be, my extended family. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Again, let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comment section below. And of course, if you have a question for me for next week, hit it in the comment section as soon as this video is archived, or hit me up on Twitter at MythicTyrant. And if you like this video and you want to see more, click that subscribe button for more great content every single day right here on MythicTyrant.com. Thanks so much for watching, guys and gals. I'll catch you right back here next time. Have a great weekend. And as always, I'm the Tyrant, signing off.